You have it. Thank you to our show sponsors as always. But it's time to get into some of our continue our final segment on the Dolphins and get into how to beat the Dolphins and get our score predictions in here shortly. And then maybe even talk about some trade scenarios here with the trade deadline being 6 days away. Brandon Beane did come out and say, going to be looking. It's got to fit in the salary. If he was a betting man, the odds wouldn't be great, but he's going to see what he can get done in the next 6 days. So to me, that sounds like he could work the phones. He needs to find a trade partner with somebody that would have an efficient contract to look forward to. But let's get that game plan going, Kevin. What are the Bills' success to victory? What does it look like against a pretty weakened Dolphins defense and a getting right Dolphins offense who was decent for the most part?
Yeah, so in terms of total yards here, I know these numbers are probably skewed because the offense has just been so shaky. But Miami does have the 6th total defense in terms of total yards this year. They are 5th against the pass, 16th against the rush, and 16th in scoring, giving up 22.4 points per game. So, I mean, they have been pretty good overall on defense. But again, it's so hard when you don't have the starting quarterback and maybe you're put in bad field position. The defense is getting tired. They're out there longer than the offense. So it'll be interesting to see what the injury report is, but I think this is essentially a Josh Allen game, right? Just because he's so dominant against the Dolphins. Now, the good thing was last time against the Dolphins, he only had 145 total yards and 1 touchdown, and the Bills were still able to win decidedly. So that was a great thing to see, that he didn't have to put the team on his back or put the cape on like he has in the past. So I think they do have many ways that they can attack this Dolphins team. But I think when it's all said and done, this is going to be Josh Allen trying to carve up this Dolphins team once again.
Yeah, and advanced analytics don't look good for the Dolphins defense. Conversely to your numbers, 25th overall pass defense, 28th overall against the rush. The Bills are going to be able to continue that game plan of running the ball like we've seen in weeks past. It's not a very good run defense. Overall, 27th DVOA defense. That doesn't have anything to do with Tua. It very much so speaks to the volumes of them being 9% worse than an average on a play-to-play basis for the Miami defense. And now they could be without Holland. We went through the injury report with Doug a little bit earlier, but it's in a rough spot with their pass rushers obviously being out. Kader Kohou is their nickel usually. He's been awful and off the field. Obviously, you're going to get Jalen Ramsey and Kendall Fuller, Marcus May and Jordan Poyer. But if Holland's off the game, that's a major loss. David Long Jr. has been the worst linebacker in the league by a lot of his metrics. Jordan Brooks has been decent, but that defense in large has really struggled. And Sieler is probably, I think, one of their best players in my personal opinion. Calais Campbell's played really well. He's a big bite out of that defense as well. So with no Jalen Phillips, obviously no Chubb, there's just not enough talent there. Jalen Ramsey's going to win his reps occasionally. He's still pretty good. But ultimately, I just don't think there's enough defensively, especially if the Bills are able to run the ball against that poor run defense. There's not going to be much there for the Dolphins, in my personal opinion. And then on offense, in terms of the Dolphins offense, I think they're going to be a little stingy. I think they're going to do some things right, and they're going to make it competitive. I think they're going to do their best to keep it a 1-score game for the most of the night. And I think that they will. I really do believe that it'll come out to be a 1-score game. They're going to battle. And even if it's a score late that brings it to 1 score or not, I do think that it's going to be a 1-score game at the very end of it. At least put enough pressure on where I don't believe the Bills are going to get a third straight laugher, but we'll have to see. I do think that we may see a 1-score game come into play here. Division, they're desperate. They're going to give it everything to stay alive in this and not be put into a position to where they're sellers at the trade deadline against teams that are looking for potential options for their rosters as the trade deadline approaches on Tuesday. Time for some score predictions. Okay, we're going to get some score predictions of this game in here first. And we're going to start with you. What do you got going on? And Doug's had a 20-point win for the Bills. Where are you at?
I have Buffalo winning 37-13. I just think that there are too many holes in this Dolphins defense. And I think that McDermott and Babbage can always scheme something up against Tua and the Dolphins offense. And again, to our points that we made throughout the whole night, I know this can be a tough divisional game, but I just have that feeling that Buffalo is going to run away with it. Maybe it'll be close at first. But again, I think the fact that the Bills were able to win in such a dominant fashion in week 2, and check out this box score real quick. Khalil Shakir led the way, 5 catches, 54 yards. The next leading receiver was Ty Johnson with 33 yards. Granted, it was just 1 catch, an incredible play from Josh. Kincaid had 4 for 33. James Cook 1 for 17. Curtis Samuel 1 for 3. Hollins didn't have a catch. MVS didn't have a catch. Coleman was catchless. So that's huge right there. Keon Coleman was catchless. Now you have him playing like a legit wide receiver too. You have Amari Cooper. You have Kincaid and Knox looking into form, playing the part. You have James Cook and Ray Davis running well, and Ty Johnson. I just think that there are way too many pieces and weapons here for the Dolphins to keep track of. So I see Buffalo winning in another dominant fashion on Sunday, 37-13.
Yeah, there's definitely,
and putting the dagger in Miami in the beginning of November. They could seriously put the dagger in them and force them to be sellers at the deadline.
There's certainly a path to that. Like there's a lot of things that point to that. I'm just, I'm going to go off that they're going to be a tough out for the Bills. I think that they're going to play really hard. Their offense is going to be a little bit better than 13 points. We'll see. But there's definitely a path to what you're saying. Like, I think that there's analytics that would point to that, but I do think that they showed up, they got a week under their belt, and this is going to be a desperate week. This is going to be their potential first stint at what could be a playoff game for them, to see if they have any type of talent. And to the Bills, it's not that to the Bills. So let's see if they can get up. I think it's strange that Josh Allen's lost 3 straight games off of daylight savings. The week he has his Halloween party. I don't know if any of that kind of stuff matters, but they've lost 3 straight games when the clock gets set back. So we'll see.
We should just abolish daylight savings. It's just stupid.
I agree.
You're just going to spring ahead anyways. I need an extra hour to work.
Right. So I agree with that part. But I got the Bills winning. 28-21 is the number I've jumped out to so far. And I think they're going to put some pressure on. There's going to be moments in the game where you're like, this is closer than we need it to be. So I do believe that that's the way it's going to go. Kevin, any final thoughts on the Dolphins? Any final Dolphins thoughts, at least for now?
Yep. So Josh Allen's career stats versus Miami. He has a career passer rating of 110.0, 3,502 yards, 34 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions in 13 games. And then you add the 5 rushing touchdowns. So he has almost 4,000 total yards and 39 touchdowns against Miami. And then he had the 3 in the playoffs as well. So he always dominates the Dolphins. And I just hope that can continue this Sunday.
There you have it. Well, he has been dominant. We'll see what happens in terms of how this one plays out. But the Bills could really, and then the Houston Jets game tomorrow, where the Jets are favored. The division could be over. I know we talked about the Dolphins being up 3. The difference was the Dolphins, we talked with Doug, they had a terrible stretch of injuries. 2 was bad in cold weather. The Bills had a great run. The Dolphins didn't. 3 games without the tiebreakers. No. I just don't think I think that's a little bit different. 4 to 5 games. The difference was the Bills had the tiebreaker on the Dolphins last year. The Dolphins aren't going to have that luxury. Neither are the Jets. So ultimately, it's just going to be a lot different of a run where the Bills are going to get the Patriots twice at the end of the year if they even need it. We'll see, how early the Bills can rest their players if they can. It's a big game. The Bills know they could take a commanding lead in this whole thing. So we'll have to see how this all plays out.